Why are you crying? 3 words. The American soldier's voice is gentle, almost concerned. The question destroys her. June 1945, Okinawa. A Pado facility mess hall where metal trays clatter against wooden tables. 23 Japanese women sit eating their evening meal. Rice. Vegetables, more food than they've seen in months. But one woman isn't eating. Keiko, 28 years old, sitting at the end of the table. Tears streaming down her face. Silent tears. The kind that come when you're trying desperately not to make sound. Corporal Matthews notices. He's serving food. American young, maybe 25. He stops beside her table, sets down the serving spoon, kneels to her eye level. Why are you crying? Neis wakini shuru no ka? Tiki wa yawasa ori suru hazuda? Why does he care? Enemies are supposed to exploit weakness. Only 847 Japanese women were captured as POWs in the entire Pacific War. 23 in this facility represent less than 3% of all female Japanese prisoners. Each one was trained by Japanese military code. Never show weakness to the enemy. Never cry. Never break. Death before emotional display. Crying in front of the enemy equals ultimate failure. Ultimate weakness. Ultimate betrayal of everything they were taught. The mess hall silence is absolute. Metal trays stop clattering. Other women freeze, all eyes on Keiko, all waiting for what comes next, the punishment, the mockery. The exploitation of weakness that propaganda promised. Quick question. Comment below what city are you watching from right now. I want to see how far this moment travels. But Matthew's voice is gentle, concerned, like he actually cares, like her tears matter to him. Like enemies can see suffering and respond with something other than cruelty. Keiko's breath hitches. She tries to stop crying. Tries to regain control. Tries to rebuild the wall that kept her functioning for 3 weeks. But the question, the gentleness, the concern in his voice, it cracks something fundamental. Something she's been holding together through pure will. She sobs, loudly, completely. The wall shatters. Matthews doesn't move, doesn't mock, doesn't exploit, just kneels there, waiting, patient. Like he has all the time in the world for her grief. The other 22 women watch in horror, not at her crying, but at what the soldier does next. At what the soldier does next. Because he kneels beside her and asks again softer, "What's wrong?" The other women stare, frozen, terrified, not for themselves, for Keiko. For what this display of weakness will cost her. Kerwa watashitachio is already nai. Korwa, rikai dekanai, is not mocking us. This is incomprehensible. In Japanese military culture, showing emotion to the enemy isn't just weakness. It's betrayal. The Senjinkan Code is explicit, never show weakness to enemy forces. Death before dishonor capture equals failure. Emotional display equals ultimate shame. A crying in front of the enemy equals court-martial offense for male soldiers. For women, social death. Permanent marking as someone who broke. Someone who failed. Someone who couldn't maintain the discipline that separates humans from animals. 100% of female military personnel were trained emotion equals weakness equals death. Not metaphorical death. Actual consequences. Women who cried during training were dismissed. Women who showed fear during deployment were reassigned to the most dangerous positions. Women who broke were made examples. The soldier's knee hits the floor with a soft thud. His voice is quiet, private, like he's asking a friend, not interrogating an enemy. What's wrong? What happened? The other women's breath is held, collective, waiting for the mockery, the exploitation. The cruelty that propaganda promised would follow any display of weakness. But Matthew's expression shows genuine concern. His eyes aren't calculating how to use this weakness. They're just sad, empathetic, human. Yuki whispers to Mashiko, "Why isn't he laughing? Why isn't he calling others to witness her shame?" Nobody has an answer. Because this doesn't match training, doesn't match propaganda. Doesn't match anything they were taught about how enemies respond to weakness. Enemies are supposed to exploit, mock, Use emotional display as leverage. That's what the training films showed. That's what every instructor emphasized. Show weakness, and the enemy will destroy you with it. But Matthews is just waiting, patient. His posture is open, non-threatening. His voice remains gentle. The cognitive dissonance is overwhelming. More terrifying than cruelty because cruelty makes sense. Cruelty matches expectations, kindness, concern, genuine empathy from an enemy. That rewrites everything. Then Kiko does something unthinkable. She answers him honestly, and what she reveals will expose a truth the other women have been hiding. The other women have been hiding, because Keiko's answer exposes the grief they've all been carrying in silence. I received a letter. Her voice breaks on every word. My son died 3 weeks ago. I just found out. The mess hall silence deepens, becomes absolute. Even the kitchen sounds stop. Musuko wa yichinda. Watashi wa teki no shokutaku de tabidiru. Kori wa yurisuranai. My son died hungry. I'm eating at enemy's table. This is unforgivable. Kiko pulls the letter from her pocket. Red Cross delivery. Arrived that morning. Official notification. Her 6-year-old son died of starvation. April 12, 1945. 3 weeks ago. She's been holding this information, trying not to break, trying to stay functional. She failed when the food was served. Rice, real rice, vegetables, protein. More food than her son ever saw in his final months. She's eating while he starved. She's surviving while he died. She's being fed by enemies while her own country let him die. Japanese civilian starvation in 1945. Estimates range from 1.5 to 2 million deaths. Children under 10 show the highest mortality rate. Rations dropped to under 1,000 calories daily. Rice became luxury, protein became myth. Children died first because adults got priority. Meanwhile, POWs in American custody receive over 2,500 calories daily. Geneva Convention requirements. Adequate nutrition, regular meals. More food than Japanese civilians. More food than Japanese soldiers. More food than her son ever had. The letter crumples in her hands. The paper is thin. The words are formal, clinical. Regret to inform you. Malnutrition-related complications. Burial conducted. Her son reduced to bureaucratic notification. Matthew's voice is quiet. How old was he? 6. He was 6. He liked drawing. He wanted to be an artist. A past tense. Was. Wanted. Liked. Her son is past tense now. The other women's faces show recognition. Horror. Understanding. Because they're all carrying letters. All carrying losses. All eating enemy food while their families starve. Keiko's voice breaks completely. I'm eating. He's dead. I'm alive. He's not. I'm being fed by people who killed him. And I'm grateful for the food. What does that make me? Matthews stands, and what he does next will shatter every assumption these women have about enemies. About enemies. Because Matthews does the unthinkable. He salutes her. Full military salute. To an enemy prisoner. For her loss. His hand snaps to his forehead. Crisp. Formal. Perfect military salute held for 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. The mess hall freezes. American soldiers stare. Japanese women stare. Nobody moves. Nobody breathes. This violates every protocol, every regulation, every rule about how you treat enemy prisoners. Matthew's voice is steady, formal, speaking through the interpreter now. Your son was a casualty of war. So are you. Different uniforms, same war, same losses. I'm sorry for your loss. I salute his memory and your grief. Teki ga watashitachi no kanashimi o sanshitiru. Kor wa senso du anai. Enemy is honoring our grief. This is not war. Then something unprecedented happens. The soldier behind Matthews salutes. Then another. Then another. 12 American soldiers total, all saluting, all honoring an enemy mother's loss, all risking court-martial for excessive fraternization with enemy personnel. Military protocol is absolute. You don't salute enemy POWs. You don't honor their losses. You don't treat their grief as legitimate. Saluting equals recognition of equal status, equal humanity, equal worth. But 12 soldiers salute anyway. The gesture lasts 60 seconds. Longest salute in the facility's history. 60 seconds of silence. 60 seconds of Americans honoring Japanese grief. 60 seconds of protocol violations that will never be officially reported. Boots snap to attention. The unified salute creates a sound like thunder. 60 seconds of silence follows. No words, no movement, just respect. Kiko stares, can't process. Enemies don't salute your losses. Enemies don't honor your dead. Enemies don't treat your grief as worthy of military respect. But these enemies do. The salute ends. Matthews lowers his hand. The other soldiers follow. They return to their duties. No fanfare, no speeches. Just a moment of recognition. A moment of shared humanity. A moment that says your loss matters. Your son mattered. Your grief is real and valid and worthy of respect. Kiko's sobbing intensifies. Not from pain, from the shock of being seen, of having her loss acknowledged, of being treated like a human whose grief matters. But the salute triggers something unexpected. All 22 other women begin crying too, and what they reveal will expose the hidden epidemic of grief. Because all 22 women begin crying, and Kiko's honesty gave them permission to break. Yuki starts first. Then Mashiko, then Sachiko. One by one, like dominoes falling. 22 women who've been holding grief in silence. 22 women who needed someone to break first. 22 women who were waiting for permission to be human. Where wa minanadida. Tada. Dare mo sesho ni naku wai kiga nakata. We were all crying inside. Just no one had courage to cry first. The letters come out. Crumpled papers pulled from pockets. Hidden in uniforms. Carried in silence for weeks. Months. Each one a notification of death. Yuki, my mother. Firebombing. Tokyo, March 9th. Mashiko. My husband executed war crimes accusation. No trial. Oh, Sachiko, my daughter, 2 years old. Osaka. Fumiko, my parents, both. Hiroshima, August 6th. The revelations cascade, each woman carrying multiple losses. Each woman hiding grief because showing it meant weakness. Meant failure. Meant betrayal of the code that demanded strength above all. Of 20, 3 women 19 received death notifications while in PO custody. 12 lost children to starvation. 8 lost husbands to execution or combat. 3 lost entire families to firebombing. Average 2.3 family deaths per woman. Multiple voices break simultaneously. Letters are shared, passed around, read aloud. The grief that was individual becomes collective. The losses that were private become communal. American soldiers stand witness, silent, respectful. Not interfering, not exploiting. Just present, acknowledging, honoring. The mess hall transforms, no longer a place of feeding, a place of mourning. A place where enemies grieve together, because grief doesn't recognize uniforms. Letters being shared create soft rustling sounds. Multiple women's voices breaking. Soldiers standing in respectful silence. The sound of collective grief, released after months of forced containment. Keiko's breakdown gave permission. Her honesty created safety. Her willingness to break showed the others you can be human here. You can grieve here. You can acknowledge loss here. The American camp commander arrives at the doorway. Major Harrison. He sees the scene. 23 women crying. 12 soldiers standing witness. The complete breakdown of military order. He has to make a decision. Restore order. Punish the display. Enforce the protocols. The American camp commander arrives, and his order will either destroy these women or save them. Will either destroy these women or save them. Because what he orders next will define whether humanity survives military protocol. Major Harrison stands in the doorway, watching. 23 women crying, 12 soldiers witnessing, complete breakdown of order. Complete violation of protocol. Complete abandonment of the distance that's supposed to exist between captor and captive. He should restore order. Should separate soldiers from prisoners. Should remind everyone that this is a military facility, not a grief counseling center. Should enforce the protocols that keep war functioning. But he doesn't. Give them space. Give them time. Let them grieve. Teki ga watashitachi no namado yurusu. Korwa seriakuka, jihaka. Enemy permits are tears. This is strategy. Or mercy. Harrison's orders are specific, revolutionary, unprecedented, no work details today. All duties suspended. Extended meal times. Women can stay in mess hall as long as needed. Chaplain available for anyone who wants spiritual support. Letters home expedited. Any woman who wants to write to surviving family gets priority Red Cross delivery. First documented case of Allied POW facility providing grief leave to enemy prisoners. 24-hour suspension of all duties. Not for security reasons. Not for medical emergency. For psychological need. For human need. Camp psychologist, Captain Stevens, is brought in. First mental health intervention for enemy POWs in the Pacific Theater. Not interrogation. Not intelligence gathering. Just support. Counseling. Recognition that grief is a legitimate medical and psychological crisis that requires professional response. Commander's firm voice issues orders. Women's continued weeping fills the background. The chaplain's quiet footsteps approach. The sound of humanity overriding military necessity. Harrison explains through the interpreter. You've all lost people. That's not weakness. That's war. You're allowed to grieve. You're allowed to be human, even here, even now, even as prisoners. The women can't process this. Enemies don't give grief leave. Captors don't suspend duties for emotional needs. Victors don't treat prisoners' losses as legitimate medical crises. But these Americans do. The mess hall becomes a grief space. Women sitting together, sharing letters, sharing losses, sharing the weight that's been crushing them individually. Making it collective. Making it bearable. American soldiers maintain respectful distance. Not leaving, not interfering. Just present, witnessing, honoring. Is this compassion real, or is it psychological warfare? A tactic to make them vulnerable. To gather intelligence through emotional manipulation. To break them down for some larger purpose. The women don't know. Can't know. Can only experience the moment and wonder if kindness from enemies can be trusted. But one woman, Yuki, refuses to cry, and her reason will reveal the darkest truth about what crying really costs. About what crying really costs. Because Yuki refuses to cry, and her reason is more terrifying than grief itself. If I start, I'll never stop. My entire family is dead. She says it flatly. No emotion. No inflection. Like she's reporting weather. Like she's reading a list. Like feeling nothing is the only way to survive feeling everything. Nate Shimatara, Takyagarna Kunaru. Watashi ga seigo no hatorida. If I cry, I won't be able to stand again. I'm the last one. Yuki received 4 letters in one day. Last week. Red Cross batch delivery, 4 envelopes. 4 death notifications, 4 family members erased. Mother died in Tokyo firebombing, March 10, 1945. Father died same night, same fire. Younger sister died in the fire. Older sister died 3 days later from burns. Infant nephew, her sister's son, 2 years old, died from smoke inhalation. 5 family members. 1 fire. 100,000 civilian deaths in Tokyo. Her family was 5 of them. Tokyo firebombing, March 1905. Over 100,000 civilian deaths in a single night. Entire families erased. Entire neighborhoods gone. Yuki's family among 40,000 families with 0 survivors except those in military service elsewhere. She's the last one. Last surviving member. Sole keeper of family memory. If she breaks, who carries them forward? If she collapses, who remembers their names? If she stops functioning, who proves they existed? Yuki's posture is rigid military, perfect. Her hands are clenched white. Her voice is flat, dead. Affect completely removed. The psychological defense of someone who can't afford to feel. Because feeling means drowning. I have 4 letters. I read them once. I put them away. I don't think about them. I don't feel them. I just continue. Because if I stop, I'll die too. Not physically. But I'll stop being the person who carries them. And someone has to carry them. Matthews listens. His expression shows he understands. Not just intellectually. personally, like he knows exactly what she means. The other women watch Yuki. See the wall she's built. See the cost of not crying. See what happens when grief is so massive that releasing it means complete destruction. Some grief is too big to touch. Some losses are too complete to mourn. Some pain requires walls because feeling it fully means ceasing to function. Yuki's rigid posture. Hands clenched. Voice dead. The physical manifestation of someone holding back an ocean with pure will. Matthews reaches into his pocket. Pulls something out, a photograph. Worn, creased, carried for years. Matthews approaches Yuki with something in his hand. And what he shows her will finally break the wall she's built. Will finally break the wall she's built. Because what Matthews shows her is his own ocean held back by the same wall. The photograph is worn. Edges frayed from being carried in a pocket for 3.5 years. The image is faded but clear. A woman. A little girl. Both smiling. Both alive in the moment the camera captured. My wife. Sarah. My daughter. Emma. 4 years old. Matthew's voice is steady. But his hands shake slightly as he holds the photograph. Both dead. Pearl Harbor. December 7, 1941. They were visiting the naval base. Wrong place. Civilian casualties. Care mo ushinata. Teki mo watashitachi to anajida. He also lost. Enemy is same as us. Pearl Harbor civilian casualties 60. 8 killed. Matthew's wife and 4-year-old daughter among them. He enlisted the day after their funeral. Carried their photograph through basic training. Through deployment. Through 3.5 years of war. First time showing it to anyone. Enemy or ally. First time speaking their names aloud in months. First time acknowledging the loss that's been driving every action since December 1941. I understand not crying, Matthews says quietly. I didn't cry for 8 months. Went through training, deployment, combat. Didn't shed a tear. Thought if I started I'd never stop. Thought I had to be strong. Had to function. Had to keep going. Then someone asked me why I looked sad. Just like I asked you. And I broke. Just like you're about to. The photograph's worn edges show how often he's held it. How many times he's looked at their faces. How many conversations he's had with people who no longer exist. Yuki takes the photograph. Her hands tremble. She stares at the little girl, Emma, 4 years old. Same age her nephew was when he died. She wanted to be an artist too. Yuki's voice cracks. Matthews nods. She drew pictures. Terrible pictures. But she loved it. She'd show me every scribble like it was a masterpiece. Past tense. Wanted. Loved. His daughter is past tense too. The wall Yuki built begins to crack. Because she's not alone in this ocean. Because her enemy lost everything too. Because grief doesn't care about uniforms or sides or who started the war. Yuki's voice cracks. I'm the last one. If I break, who carries them? Matthew's response is quiet. I'll help you carry them. That's what we do for each other. Even if we're supposed to be enemies. Yuki takes the photograph, and what she does next will create a moment that neither side will ever forget. That neither side will ever forget. Because Yuki does the unthinkable, she cries. And when she starts, she can't stop. The wall shatters. Completely. 4 hours of crying. Loud, uncontrolled. The kind of grief that's been compressed for months erupting all at once. Matthews sits beside her. Doesn't speak. Doesn't try to comfort with words. Just present. Solid. A witness to grief too big for one person to carry alone. Kanashimi wa gengo o kawaru. Kanashimi wa teki o kawaru. Grief transcends language. Grief transcends enemy. The other women join. Not all at once. Gradually one sits beside Yuki, then another, creating a circle. Japanese women, American soldiers' enemies sitting together, united by loss, united by grief, united by the understanding that some pain is too big for sides. 22 women in the circle. 8 American soldiers sitting witness. No words spoken for the final 90 minutes. Just shared silence. Shared tears. Shared breathing that synchronizes without intention. Multiple people breathing in rhythm. The sound of collective grief. Tears falling on concrete creating soft tapping. Shared silence heavier than any speech. This shouldn't exist. Enemies don't grieve together. Captors don't sit with prisoners in shared mourning. War doesn't pause for humanity. Protocols don't allow for this kind of connection. But it exists anyway. Because grief is stronger than protocol. Because loss is bigger than sides. Because humanity survives even when everything else is destroyed. 4 hours. The longest grief session in POW facility history. No duties, no protocols, no military necessity. Just humans sitting with humans. Acknowledging that some losses are too big to carry alone. The circle eventually breaks. Not because grief ends. Because bodies need rest. Because emotion exhausts. Because eventually you have to stand up and continue existing even when existence feels impossible. The women stand, slowly, helping each other up. Matthews helps Yuki. She doesn't pull away, doesn't refuse enemy assistance, just accepts the hand offered. They're different now. Not enemies. Not allies. Something else. Something war doesn't have a word for. Humans who shared the worst moment and survived it together. What happens after this moment? Can they go back to being enemies? Can protocol be restored? Can the distance between captor and captive be rebuilt? Nobody knows. But 40 years later, the answer becomes clear. 40 years later, Yuki returns to Okinawa with Matthew's photograph. And what she does with it will complete the story. Will complete the story. Because 40 years later, grief remembered becomes memorial shared 1985 Okinawa. The former POW facility is gone, replaced by a memorial park. Smooth stones, plaques, trees planted in memory of those who died and those who survived. Yuki is 64 now, gray hair, weathered hands. Grandmother to 4. She's standing at the exact spot where the mess hall once stood. Where she cried for 4 hours. Where enemies became humans. She's holding Matthew's photograph. The one he showed her 40 years ago. Wife and daughter. Both dead. Both past tense. Both carried in his pocket through war and peace and 40 years of life after loss. Matthews is here too. 68 now. Retired. Living in California. He flew to Okinawa for this. For what Yuki is about to do. Karamo tachi ni wa tekiga nakata. Tada. Sensuga ada. Children had no enemies. There was only war. The Yuki unveils the memorial stone monument. Engraved names. 840. 7 names of children who died while their mothers were POWs. Japanese side. 312 names of American servicemen's children who died during the war. American side. First memorial to honor child casualties from both sides equally. No distinction between enemy and ally. No separation between Japanese losses and American losses. Just children, just names. Just lives that ended too soon. The memorial is funded by former POWs and veterans together. Japanese women who survived. American soldiers who witnessed. Families of the lost. All contributing. All recognizing that grief doesn't have sides. Matthews places his photograph at the base. Emma's picture. Permanent display. Yuki places her nephew's picture beside it. 2 4-year-olds. 2 artists. 2 children who never got to grow up. Memorial stone texture is smooth under their fingers. Ocean breeze carries salt air. Elderly hands, 1 American, 1 Japanese, place photographs side by side. The ceremony is small, quiet. Just the former POWs who survived, the soldiers who witnessed, the families who lost. No politicians, no speeches, no grand statements. Just memory. Just the understanding that some losses unite rather than divide. Why are you crying? 3 words that broke 1 woman's resolve. 3 words that gave 22 others permission to grieve. 3 words that taught enemies that some questions aren't about weakness. They're about seeing someone's humanity when they've forgotten it themselves. When your enemy asks about your pain with genuine concern, can shared loss erase the line between enemy and human? Comment below. In war, sometimes the breaking point is when someone notices you've lost everything and asks why.